Hello and welcome to the first video in my series of audiobook videos for the novel Salvage the Bones by Jesmyn Ward. This is a really beautiful book, and feel free to click through the playlist of videos, which will be posted day by day after this, as fast as I can humanly read them. Today we're reading chapter 1, which is called The First Day, Birth in a Bare Bulb Place. And it's pages 119 in this version of the book. Content warnings for this chapter include graphic depictions of birth. There's a human mother who dies in childbirth, and a dog who's also giving birth during this chapter. In this chapter, I want you to pay special attention to our narrator, who we're meeting for the first time, Esh. She's going to be our protagonist. And the characterization of her older brother, Skeeta, as well. But we're meeting all of the members of our core family in this reading today. Starting on page 1. The first day, birth in a bare bulb place. China's turned on herself. If I didn't know, I would think... If I didn't know, I would think she was trying to eat her paws. I would think that she was crazy, which she is, in a way. Won't let nobody touch her but Skeet. When she was a big-headed pit bull puppy, she stole all the shoes in the house. All our black tennis shoes Mama bought because they hide dirt and hold up until they're beaten soft. Only Mama's forgotten the sandals, thin-heeled and tinted pink with so much red mud seeped into them, looked different. China hid them all under furniture, behind the toilet, stacked them in piles and slept on them. When the dog was old enough to run and trip down the steps on her own, she took the shoes outside, put them in shallow ditches under the house. She'd stand rigid as a pine when we tried to take them away from her. Now, China is giving like she once took away, bestowing where she once stole. She is birthing puppies. What China is doing is nothing like what Mama did when she had my youngest brother, Junior. Mama gave birth in the house she bore all of us in, here in this gap in the woods her father cleared and built on, that we now call the pit. Me, the only girl and the youngest at 8, was of no help, although Daddy said she told him she didn't need any help. Daddy said that Randall and Skeeta and me came fast, that Mama had all of us in her bed, under her own bare burning bulb. So when it was time for Junior, she thought she could do the same. It didn't work that way. Mama squatted, screamed toward the end. Junior came out purple and blue as a hydrangea, Mama's last flower. She touched Junior just like that when Daddy held him over her, lightly with her fingertips, like she was afraid she'd knock the pollen from him, spoil the bloom. She said she didn't want to go to the hospital. Daddy dragged her from the bed to his truck, trailing her blood, and we never saw her again. What China is doing is fighting, like she was born to do. Fight our shoes, fight other dogs, fight these puppies that are reaching for the outside, blind and wet. China's sweating and the boys are gleaming, and I can see Daddy through the window of the shed, his face shining like the flash of a fish under the water when the sun hit. It's quiet, heavy. Feels like it should be raining, but it isn't. There are no stars, and the bare bulbs of the pit burn. Get out the doorway, you're making her nervous. Skeeta is Daddy's copy, dark, short, and lean. His body knotted with ropey muscles. He is the second child, 16, but he is the first for China. She only has eyes for him. She ain't studying us, Randall says. He is the oldest, 17. Taller than Daddy, but just as dark. He has narrow shoulders and eyes that look like... He has narrow shoulders and eyes that look like they want to jump out of his head. People at school think he's a nerd, but when he's on the basketball court, he moves like a rabbit, all quick grace and long haunches. When Daddy is hunting, I always cheer for the rabbit. She needs room to breathe. Skeeta's hands slide over her fur, and he leans in to listen to her belly. She gotta relax. Ain't nothing about her relaxed. Randall is standing at the side of the open doorway, holding the sheet that Skeeta has nailed up for a door. For the past week, Skeeta has been sleeping in the shed, waiting for the birth. Every night, I waited until he cut the light off, until I knew he was asleep, and I walked out of the back door to the shed, stood where I'm standing now, to check on him. Every time I found him asleep, his chest to her back, he curled around China like a fingernail around flesh. See? Junior is hugging Randall's legs, leaning in to see, but without the courage to stick in more than his nose. China usually ignores the rest of us, and Junior usually ignores her. But he is 7, and he is curious. When the boy from Germain brought his male pit bull to the pit to mate with China 3 months ago, Junior squatted on an oil drum above the makeshift kennel, an old disconnected truck bed dug in the earth with chicken wire stretched over it, and watched. When the dogs got stuck, he circled his face with his arms, but still refused to move when I yelled at him to go in the house. He sucked on his arm and played with the dangling skin of his ear, like he does when he watches television, or before he falls to sleep. I asked him once why he does it, and all he would say is that it sounds like water. Skeeta ignores Junior because he is focused on China, like a man focuses on a woman when he feels that she is his, which China is. Randall doesn't say anything, but stretches his hand across the door to block Junior from entering. No, Junior. I put out my leg to complete the gate, barring Junior from the dog, from the yellow string of mucus pooling to a puddle on the floor under China's rear. Let him see, Daddy says. He old enough to know about that. His is a voice in the darkness, orbiting the shed. He has a hammer in one hand, a clutch of nails in another. China hates him. I relax, but Randall doesn't move, and neither does Junior. Daddy spins away from us like a comet into the darkness. There's the sound of hammer hitting metal. He makes her tense, Skeeta says. Maybe you need to help her push, I say. Sometimes I think that is what killed Mama. I can see her, chin to chest, straining to push Junior out, and Junior snagging on her insides, grabbing hold of what he caught onto, to try to stay inside her. But instead, he pulled it out with him when he was born. She don't need no help pushing. And China doesn't. Her sides ripple. She snarls, her mouth a black line. Her eyes are red, the mucus runs pink. Everything about China tenses, and there are a million marbles under her skin, and then she seems to be turning herself inside out. At her opening, I see a purplish red bulb. China is blooming. If one of Daddy's drinking buddies had asked what he's doing tonight, he would have told them he's fixing up for the hurricane. It's summer, and when it's summer, there's always a hurricane coming or leaving here. Each pushes its way through the flat gulf to the 26-mile man-made Mississippi beach, where they knock against the old summer mansions with their slave galleys turned guest houses, before running over the bayou, through the pines, to lose wind, drip rain, and die in the north. Most don't even hit us head on anymore. Most turn right to Florida or take a left to Texas, brush past and glance off us like a shirt sleeve. We ain't had one come straight for us in years. Time enough to forget how many jugs of water we need to fill, how many cans of sardines and potted meat we should stock, how many tubs of water we need. But on the radio that Daddy keeps playing in his parked truck, I heard them talking about it earlier today. How the forecasters said the 10th tropical depression had just dissipated in the Gulf, but another one seems to be forming around Puerto Rico. So today, Daddy woke me up by hitting the wall outside me and Junior's room. Wake up, we got work to do. Junior rolled over in his bed and curled into the wall. I sat up long enough to make Daddy think I was going to get up, and then I lay back down and drifted off. When I woke up 2 hours later, Daddy's radio was running in his truck. Junior's bed was empty, his blanket on the floor. Junior, get the rest of them shine jugs. Daddy, ain't none under the house. Outside the window, Daddy jabbed at the belly of the house with his can of beer. Junior tugged his shorts. Daddy gestured again, and Junior squatted and slithered under the house. The underside of the house didn't scare him like it had always scared me when I was little. Junior disappeared between the cinder blocks, holding up the house, for afternoons, and would only come out when Skeeta threatened to send China under there after him. I asked Junior one time what he did under there, and all he would say is that he played. I imagined him digging sleeping holes like a dog would, laying on his back in the sandy red dirt and listening to our feet slide and push across floorboards. Junior had a good arm, and bottles and cans rolled out from under the house like pool balls. They stopped when they hit the rusted-over cow bath Daddy had salvaged from the junkyard where he scraps metal. He'd brought it home for Junior's birthday last year and told him to use it as a swimming pool. "Shoot," Randall said. He was sitting on a chair under his homemade basketball goal, a rim he'd stolen from the county park and screwed into the trunk of a dead pine tree. "Ain't nothing hit us in years. They don't come this way no more. When I was little, they was always hitting us." It was Manny. I stood at the edge of the bedroom window, not wanting him to see me. Manny threw a basketball from hand to hand. Seeing him broke the cocoon of my ribcage, and my heart unfurled to fly. We're on the top of page 6. "You act like you ancient. You only 2 years older than me, like I don't remember how they used to be," Randall said as he caught the rebound and passed it back to Manny. "If anything hits us this summer, it's going to blow down a few branches. You just don't know what they're talking about." Manny had black curly hair, black eyes, and white teeth, and his skin was the color of fresh cut wood at the heart of a pine tree. "Every time somebody in Boy Sauvage get arrested, they always get the story wrong." "That's journalists. Weatherman's a scientist," Randall said. "He ain't shit." From where I was, Manny looked like he was blushing, but I knew his face had broken out, tinged him red, and that the rest of it was the scar on his face. "Oh, one's coming all right." Daddy wiped his hand along the side of his trunk. Manny rolled his eyes and jerked his thumb at Daddy. He shot. Randall caught the ball and held it. "There ain't even tropical depression yet," Randall said to Daddy, "and you got Junior bowling with shine bottles." Randall was right. Daddy usually filled a few jugs of water. Canned goods was the only kind of groceries Daddy knew how to make, so we were never short on Vienna sausages and potted meat. We ate top ramen every day, soupy, added hot dogs, drained the juice so it was spicy pasta. Dry, it tasted like crackers. The last time we'd had a bad storm hit head on, Mama was alive. After the storm, she'd barbecued all the meat left in the silent freezer so it wouldn't spoil. And Skeeta ate so many hot sausage links he got sick. Randall and I had fought over the last pork chop, and Mama had pulled us apart while Daddy laughed about it, saying, "She can hold her own. Told you she was going to be a little scrappy, scrawny thing built just like you." "This year's different," Daddy said as he sat on the back of his trunk. For a moment, he looked not drunk. "News is right. Every week it's a new storm. Ain't never been this bad." Manny shot again and Randall chased the ball. "Makes my bones hurt," Daddy said. "I can feel them coming." I pulled my hair back in a ponytail. It was my one good thing, my odd thing, like a Doberman come out white. Corkscrew curls, black, limp when wet, but full as fistfuls of frayed rope when dry. Mama used to let me run around with it down, said it was some throwback trait, and since I got it, I might as well enjoy it. But I looked in the mirror and knew the rest of me wasn't so remarkable. Wide nose, dark skin, Mama's slim, short frame with all the curves folded in so that I looked square. I changed my shirt and listened to them talking outside. The walls, thin and uninsulated, peeling from each other at the seams, made me feel like Manny could see me before I even stepped outside. Our high school English teacher, Ms. Dodo, gives us reading every summer. After my 9th grade year, we read As I Lay Dying, and I made an A because I answered the hardest question right. Why does the young boy think his mother is a fish? This summer, after 10th grade, we are reading Edith Hamilton's Mythology. The chapter I finished reading day before yesterday is called 8 Brief Tales of Lovers, and it leads into the story of Jason and the Argonauts. I wondered if Medea felt this way before she walked out to meet Jason for the first time. Like a hard wind come through her and set her to shaking. The insects singing as they ring the red dirt yard, the bouncing ball, Daddy's blues coming from his truck radio. They all called me out the door. China buries her face between her paws with her tail end in the air before the last push for the first puppy. She looks like she wants to flip over into a headstand, and I want to laugh, but I don't. Blood oozes from her, and Skeeta crouches even closer to help her. China yanks her head up and her eyes snap open along with her teeth. Careful, Randall says. Skeeta has startled her. He lays his hands on her and she rises. I went to my daddy's Methodist church one time with my mama, even though she raised us Catholic, and this is what China moves like she has caught the ghost, like the holiest voice moves through her instead of Skeeta's. I wonder if her body feels like it is in the grip of one giant hand that wrings her empty. I'm gonna plug in my computer so that it doesn't die on us. All right, and we are in the middle of page 8. Well, at the top of page 8. I see it, Junior squeals. The first puppy is big. It opens her and slides out in a stream of pink slime. Skeeta catches it, places it to the side on a pile of thin, ripped towels he has prepared. He wipes it. Orange like his daddy, Skeeta says. This one's going to be a killer. The puppy is almost orange. He's really the color of the red earth after someone has dug in it to plant a field or pull up stones or put in a body. It is Mississippi red. The daddy was that color. He was short and looked like a big red muscle. He had chunks of skin and flesh crusted over to scabby sores from fighting. When he and China had sex, there was blood on their jaws, on her coat, and instead of loving, it looked like they were fighting. China's skin is rippling like the wind over water. The second puppy slides halfway out feet first and hangs there. Skeet, Junior squeaks. He has one eye and his nose pressed against Randall's leg, which he is hugging. He seems very dark and very small, and in the night gloom, I cannot see the color of his clothes. Skeeta grabs the puppy's rear and his hand covers the entire torso. He pulls. China growls and the puppy slides clear. He is pink. When Skeeta lays him on the mat and wipes him off, he's white, with tiny black spots like watermelon seeds spit across his fur. His tongue protrudes through the tiny slit that is his mouth, and he looks like a flat cartoon dog. He is dead. Skeeta lets go of the towel and the puppy rolls, stiff as a bowling pin, across the padding to rest lightly against the red puppy, which is moving its legs in small fits like blinks. Shit, China, Skeeta breathes. Another puppy is coming. This one slowly slides out head first, a lonely, hesitant diver. Big Henry, one of Randall's friends, dives into the water at the river like that every time we go swimming, heavy and carefully, as if he's afraid his big body, with its whirls of muscle and fat, will hurt the water. And every time Big Henry does so, the other boys laugh at him. Manny is always the loudest of them all, his teeth white knives, his face golden red. The puppy lands in the cup of Skeeta's palms. She is a patchwork of white and brown. She's moving, her head bobbing in imitation of her mother's. Skeeta cleans the puppy. He kneels behind China, who growls, yelps, splits. Even though Daddy's truck was parked right beyond the front door and Junior hit me in my calf with a shine bottle, I looked at Manny first. He was holding the ball like an egg, with his fingertips, the way Randall says a good ball handler does. Manny could dribble on rocks. I had seen him in the rocky sand at the corner of the basketball court down at the park. Him and Randall dribbling and defending, dribbling and defending. The rocks made the ball ricochet between their legs like a rubber paddle ball, unpredictable and wild. But they were so good, they caught to dribble again nearly every time. They'd fall before they'd let the ball escape, dive to be cut by shells and small gray stones. Manny was holding the ball as tenderly as he would a pit puppy with pedigree papers. I wanted him to touch me that way. Hey, Manny. It was an asthma squeak. My neck felt hot, hotter than the day. Manny nodded at me, spun the ball on his pointer finger. What's up? About time, Daddy said. Help your brother with them bottles. I can't sit under the house. I swallowed the words. I don't want you to get them. I want you to rinse them. He pulled a saw, brown with disuse, from his truck bed. I know we got some plywood somewhere around here. I grabbed 2 of the nearest jugs and brought them to the faucet. I turned the knob, and the water that burst out of the spigot was hot as boiling water. One of the jugs was caked with mud on the inside, so I let the water run through the top. When the water bubbled up at the rim, I shook the jugs to clear them. Manny and Randall whistled to each other, played ball, and others arrived. Big Henry and Marquise. I was surprised that they all came from other places, that 1 or 2 of them hadn't emerged from the shed with Skeeta, or out of the patchy remains of Mother Lisbeth's rotting house, which is the only other house in the clearing, and which was originally my mama's mother's property. The boys always found places to sleep when they were too drunk or high or lazy to go home. The back seats of junk cars, the old RV Daddy bought for cheap from some man at a gas station in Germain that only ran until he got it into the driveway, the front porch that Mama had made Daddy screen in when we were little. Daddy didn't care, and after a while, the pit felt strange when they weren't there, as empty as the fish tank, dry of water and fish, but filled with rocks and fake coral like I saw in Big Henry's living room once. "What's up, cousin?" Marquise asked. "I was wondering where y'all was. The pit was feeling empty," Randall said. The water in the bottle I held was turning pink. I rocked on my feet with the sloshing, tried not to glance at Manny, but did. He wasn't looking at me. He was shaking Marquise's hand, his wide, blunt fingers swallowing Marquise's skinny brown hand almost to nothing. I set the bottle down clean, picked up the next, began again. My hair laid on my neck like the blankets my mother used to crochet, the ones we still piled on in the winter to keep warm and woke up under in the morning sweating. A bottle of dishwashing liquid landed at my feet, slapping mud on my calves. "All the way clean," Daddy said as he stalked off with a hammer in one hand. The soap made my hands slippery. Suds blanketed the mud. Junior quit searching for bottles and sat next to me, playing with bubbles. "Only reason Manny was up here so early was because he was trying to get away from Shalia." Marquis stole the ball. Although he was smaller than Skeeta, he was almost as quick, and he dribbled to the raggedy hoop. Big Henry winked at Manny and laughed. Manny's face was smooth, and only his body spoke. His muscles jabbered like chickens. He spread himself over Marquise, guarding him from the goal, and Randall clapped his hands at the edge of the beaten dirt court, waiting for Manny to steal and pass the ball. Big Henry shouldered against him, guarding. He was almost as tall as Randall, but much wider, graceful and light as a spinning top. It was a real game now. The crack of the bottle I was shaking sounded like change clattering in a loose fist. The bottle shattered, and the glass fragmented, slid along my palms. I dropped what I held. "Move, Junior," I said. My hands, which moments before had been pink, were red, especially the left. "I'm bleeding," I said under my breath. I didn't yell. I wanted Manny to see me, but not as a weak, sorry girl. Not something to be pitied because I couldn't take pain like a boy. Randall caught Manny's rebound and walked over to me as I kneeled, my left hand under the faucet, a ribbon of red making for the mud at my feet. He threw the ball backward. The cut was the size of a quarter, bleeding steadily. "Let me see." He pushed around the wound and it pulsed blood. I felt sick to my stomach. "You gotta push on it until it stops bleeding." He put my thumb, which had been stopping the head of the bottle, over the cut. "You push," he said. "My hands are too dirty." "Until it stops hurting." It was always what Mama told us to do when we went running to her with a cut or a scrape. She would push and blow at the wound after putting alcohol on it, and when she'd stopped blowing, it wouldn't hurt anymore. There, see? Like it never happened. Manny was throwing the ball back and forth with Marquise so quickly it sounded like the fast beat of a drum. He glanced over at Randall kneeling over me. His face was even redder than it usually is. But then he hissed like he always does when he's playing basketball, and I knew he was excited, not concerned. "You gotta push until it stops hurting." My stomach tilted. Randall squeezed once more and stood, and the glimpse I saw of Mama in his mouth when he told me to push was gone. Manny looked away. We're in the middle of page 12. China's next puppy is black and white. The white circles his neck before curling away from his head and across his shoulder. The rest of him is black. He jerks and mews as Skeeta lays him on the blanket clean. His mew is loud, makes itself heard among the crickets. And he is the loudest Mardi Gras dancing Indian, wearing a white headdress, shouting and dancing through the pitted streets of the sunken city. I want him because he comes out of China chanting and singing like the New Orleans Indians, like the Indians that gave me my hair. But I don't think Skeeta will give him to me. He's worth too much money. His bloodline is good. China is known among the pit bulls in Bois Sauvage for locking onto dogs and making them cur. She pulls tendons from necks. The daddy dog from Germain, a few towns over, is equally fierce. Rico, his owner and Manny's cousin, makes so much money fighting him, he only has a part-time job as a mechanic at an oil change shop. And he spends the rest of his time driving his dog in his pickup truck to illegal dog fights set back in the woods. I wish he was all black, Skeeta says. I don't care, I say in return to Skeeta, to everyone, to the dogs multiplying in the shed. But no one hears me over China. She yelps. She sounds like I do when I let go of the swinging rope that hangs from the tall tree over Wolf River, terrified and elated. Her clipped ears curl forward. The puppy slides from her. It looks yellow, streaked with black, but when Skeeta wipes it off, the black vanishes. Blood looked black at night, Randall says. The puppy is pure white. She is her mother in miniature. But while her mother moans, she is silent. Skeeta bends over her. The other puppies are opening their jaws, twitching legs. We're all sweating so badly we look like we just ran into the shed from a hard, heavy summer rain. But Skeet is shaking his head. And I don't know if it's all sweat or if he's crying. He blinks. He scrapes his pointer over the pure white skull, down the puppy's chest and her belly. Her mouth opens and her belly inflates. She is her mother's daughter. She is a fighter. She breathes. I tied the strip of an old rag around my hand and kept washing until I had all the glass bottles lined up on the wall inside the kitchen. Junior had run off into the woods surrounding the house after declaring that he was going to hunt armadillos. The boys had finished playing basketball. Big Henry pulled the old Caprice his mama had bought him for his 16th birthday into the yard next to the house after drinking from the faucet, wetting his head, and shaking it like a wet dog to make me laugh. Randall and Manny were arguing about the game. Marquise was lying on the hood in the shade of the oak trees, smoking a cigar. Big Henry only has 2 6x9 speakers that work because he blew his amp and his bass, so their talk was louder than the music. I picked up the jug I broke and put the shards in an old half of a garbage can lid. I knelt and stared for glass, wondered if I could find the piece that had cut me. When I finished, I walked toward the back of the property, the woods. My eyes wanted to search for Manny so badly the want felt like an itch on my temple, but I kept walking. We're in the middle of page 14. My mama's mother, Mother Lisbeth, and her daddy, Papa Joseph, originally owned all this land, around 15 acres in all. It was Papa Joseph nicknamed it all the Pit. Papa Joseph who let the white men he worked with dig for clay that they used to lay the foundation for houses. Let them excavate the side of a hill in a clearing near the back of the property where he used to plant corn for feed. Papa Joseph let them take all the dirt they wanted until their digging had created a cliff over a dry lake in the backyard, and the small stream that had run around and down the hill had diverted and pooled into the dry lake, making it into a pond. And then Papa Joseph thought the earth would give under the water, that the pond would spread and gobble up the property and make it a swamp. So he stopped selling earth for money. He died soon after from mouth cancer, or at least that's what Mother Lisbeth used to tell us when we were little. She always talked to us like grown-ups, cussed us like grown-ups. She died in her sleep after praying the rosary when she was in her 70s. And 2 years later, Mama, the only baby still living out of the 8 that Mother Lisbeth had born, died when having Junior. Since it's just us and Daddy here now with China, the chickens, and a pig when Daddy can afford one, the fields Papa Joseph used to plant around the pit are overgrown with shrubs, with saw palmetto, with pine trees reaching up like the bristles on a brush. We dump our garbage in a shallow ditch next to the pit, and we burn it. When the pine needles from the surrounding trees fall in and catch fire, it smells okay. Otherwise, it smells like burnt plastic. I dumped the glass into the ditch where it sparkled on top of the black remains like stars. The water in the pit was low. We hadn't had a good rain in weeks. The shower we needed was out in the Gulf, held like a tired, hungry child by the storm forming there. When there's good rain in the summer, the pit fills to the brim and we swim in it. The water, which normally was pink, had turned a thick brownish red, the color of a scab. I turned around to leave and saw gold. Manny. Been too dry, he said. He stopped beside me, an arm's length away. I might have been able to scrape him with my fingernails. Ain't no good to swim in right now. I nodded. Now that he was speaking to me, I didn't know what to say. If your daddy's right, we'll get it soon, though, he said. I beat the side of my leg with the garbage lid, forgetting the dirt caked to the side. It drifted and fell like powder. I wanted to shut up, but it was my only thought, so I spoke. Why you ain't out front? I looked at his feet. His once white Jordans were the color of orange sherbet. With them? Yeah. I glanced at his face, like the sweat like glaze. My lips were open. Another me would have licked it off, and it would have tasted like salt. But this girl wouldn't lean forward, wouldn't smile as she mouthed his neck. This girl waited, because she wasn't like the women in the mythology book, the women who kept me turning the pages, the trickster nymphs, the ruthless goddesses, the world-uprooting mothers. Io, who made a god's heart hot with love, Artemis, who turned a man into a deer and had her dogs tear him cartilage from bone, Demeter, who made time stop when her daughter was stolen. Because I don't smoke weed, Manny said, and his shoe slid next to mine. You know I don't do that no more. His feet were in front of me, and suddenly, tall as he was blocking the sun. You know what I do. He was really looking at me, bold, for the first time all day. He smiled. His face, marked with red sunburn and dimples and pockmarks and the glittering of scars from a car accident when he was 17 and drunk and high in a car with his cousins up country at midnight, and they swerved to hit a deer. When he came out the window and hit the pebbly asphalt and glass, he scraped, and the road marked him with its own burn, broke him in places. He was the sun. Manny touched me first where he always touched me, my ass. He grabbed and pulled, and my shorts slid down. His fingers tugged my panties. His forearms rubbed my waist, and the brush of his skin burned like a tongue. He had never kissed me except like this, with his body, never his mouth. My underwear slid down my legs. He was peeling away my clothes like orange rind. He wanted the other me, the pulpy, ripe heart, the sticky heart the boys saw through my boyish frame, my dark skin, my plain face. The girly heart that, before Manny, I'd let boys have because they wanted it, and not because I wanted to give it. I'd let boys have it because for a moment, I was Psyche, or Eurydice, or Daphne. I was beloved. But with Manny, it was different. He was so beautiful, and he still chose me, again and again. He wanted my girl heart. I gave him both of them. The pines seemed to circle like a ring of rosy, and I fell. It will be quick, I thought. He will bury his face in my hair. He will growl when he comes. I dug my heels into the backs of his thighs. Even though I knew all the other boys, I knew him and his body best. I loved him best. I showed him with my hips. My hair, my pillow in the red dirt. My breasts hurt. I wanted him to lean down, to touch me everywhere. He wouldn't, but his hips would. China barked, knife sharp. I was bold as a Greek. I was making him hot with love, and Manny was loving me. We're at the top of 17. China is licking the puppies. I've never seen her so gentle. I don't know what I thought she would do when she had them. Sit on them and smother them, maybe. Bite them, turn their skulls into bits of bone and blood. But she doesn't do any of that. Instead, she stands over them, her on one side and Skeeta on the other like a pair of proud parents, and she licks. She ain't done yet, Daddy says from the bed of his truck. The afterbirth. He disappears again off into the darkness with the sound of the bottles I cleaned rolling after him through the dirt. It is as if China has heard Daddy. She backs into a corner, wedges herself between a stack of cinder blocks and what I think is most of a car motor. She makes no noise, just bares her teeth, grimaces. Skeeta makes no move toward her. She does not want to share this. He will not make her. Her muzzle glistens pink and yellow with what she has licked from her puppies. There is a wet sound behind her, and she turns quickly, still leaking a thin line of mucus, to eat what has fallen. I squat and peer through Skeet's legs. It looks dark purple, almost black, in the corner, and with a shake of her head, the glistening mess is gone. It had looked like the inside of the last pig that Daddy had, that he slaughtered and emptied into a tub before making us clean the intestines for chitterlings. It stank so bad, Randall threw up. I heard they always eat the afterbirth, Randall says. China walks past Skeeta, licks his pinky. It is a kiss, a peck. She stands over the dirty towel that holds her puppies. Look, I say. There's something moving where she dropped, where she ate. Skeeta crawls over on his hands and knees and picks it up. A runt, he says. He carries it into the light. It is brindle. Stripes of black and brown ride its ribs like a zebra's. It is half the size of its brothers and sisters. Skeeta closes his fist and it vanishes. It's alive, he says. There is delight on his face. He is happy to have another puppy. If it lives, he can get maybe $200 for it, even if it is a runt. He opens his hand and the puppy appears like the heart of a bloom. It is as still as a flower's stigma. Skeeta's mouth falls straight. His eyebrows flatten. He lays it down. Probably going to die anyway. China does not lay down like a new mother. She does not suckle. She licks the big red puppy and then forgets him. She's looking past Skeeta to us. She bristles at us, standing at the door. Skeeta grabs her neck collar, tries to calm her, but she is rigid. Junior pulls his way up Randall's back. I think about hugging Skeeta before I go, but China is glowering, so I just smile at him. I don't know if he sees me in the dark. He has done a good job. Only one puppy is dead, even though it is China's first time birthing. China scratches at the earth floor of the shed as if she would dig a hole and bury the puppies from sight. In the ruins of the refuse-laden yard, Daddy is hitting something metal. We leave. Skeeta refastens the curtain behind us, pulling it tight against the still, clear night. The shed falls dark. I tell Junior to take a bath once we enter the house, but he ignores me, and it is not until Randall turns on the water and carries him to the bathtub that he washes off. Randall stands in the doorway watching Junior because he's convinced that when Junior closes the door to wash, he only sits on the edge of the bathtub and kicks his feet in the water. Junior hates bathing. I'm the last to take a shower, and the water, even though I have only the cold spigot on, is lukewarm. August is always the month of the deepest heat, the heat that reaches so far in the earth it boils the water in the wells. When I go to bed, Junior is already asleep. The box fan in the window hums. I lie on my back and feel dizzy, lightheaded, nauseous. I only ate once today. I see Manny above me, his face licking mine, the heat of his sweat, our waists meeting. How he sees me with his body, how he loves me like Jason. Junior snorts a baby snore, and I drift off with Manny's breathing in my brain. That was chapter 1 of Salvage the Bones. Tune in for the next chapter, which starts on page 20, and it's called The Second Day, Hidden Eggs. I hope you enjoyed this chapter, and I'll see you guys next time.